Right Pack Radio, a podcast produced by Winding Trails Media for writers by writers.
Writers, agents, and publishers, for the first time since the Gutenberg Press, find themselves lost in a maze of mystery as technology alters the shape of the publishing industry. Searching for Answers is a group of writers throwing pop culture, writing, and publishing into a crucible of clarity, passion, and humor. This group is the Right Pack.
Welcome back to Right Pack Radio. This is your host and producer, David Allen Lucas, president of Winding Trails Media, president of St. Louis Writers Guild, and author of Crazy Things that are soon coming out. And you will learn about that later in 2017. And with me today is, of course, my lovely co-host.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Kayembe. I write paranormal romance under the pen name Kaseka and Vita, and am currently writing things I definitely can't publish, but they're fun, so I do it.
Yay.
Okay, that raises questions, and we'll find out something else later.
Brad R. Cook, author of the steampunk trilogy, The Iron Chronicles, and Iron Lotus is out now, so snatch it up and read it. It's awesome. You can also find my short story, A Clockwork Heart, and in terms of what's coming up, it's the December, so not much, but the new year is going to bring all kinds of new stuff, so be on the lookout.
Yes.
I'm Melanie Lucas, author of not much. Still trying to get back in the groove of writing. Trying to write science fiction, fantasy, and writing nonfiction under a different name. Right?
Which name?
Melanie Colady.
Thank you. People want to look up stuff.
Yeah.
I think she's ashamed of her nonfiction.
Yeah.
She shouldn't be. She's the published scientist in the room here.
Yeah.
Just getting older. Let's just say there's not much being added to it.
Oh, yeah. I see. It's more awareness that was in the past.
Mostly, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm Jennifer Stolzer. I'm a children's book author and illustrator. My fantasy novel, which isn't a sci-fi novel, but it's a fantasy novel, will be coming out next spring, nearly certainly now. I have to make some last-minute arrangements, but I think I might have a spring release date, so keep an eye out for Threadcaster, thread like string, casterlikemagic.com.
Excellent.
Fedora Amos. I write Victorian whodunits like Jack the Ripper in St. Louis, and my 2016 release, which is Mayhem at Buffalo Bill's Wild West. I'm also vice president of Greater St. Louis Sisters in Crime.
Yay.
Yay.
And I am George Soroy. I'm the vice president of the Missouri Writers Guild and conference chair for the 2017 conference. I write science fiction for the young adult reader, and my books Excelsior and From Parts Unknown are both available as ebooks, while Excelsior is also available as paperback and audiobook narrated by myself. And we hope to see you at the Missouri Writers Guild Conference, May 5th through the 7th. See me for more details.
And also, too, in June is going to be Gateway Con. Gateway to Publishing Conference and Convention. For more details, stay tuned to after the show. Now, today we're going to talk about a very dangerous topic out there. And I say dangerous because it's a huge pitfall or a huge trap in which a lot of new authors get themselves caught in. And excuse the sound of Twain, the plot.
That's Mark.
Mark, the plot cat. We got Mark, got Twain, and we got Pumpkin. They're all over. Anyway, but here's the pitfall. It's not Mark, Twain, or Pumpkin. The pitfall are the scams that are out there looking to hook you in. And being president of St. Louis Writers Guild, I know Brad as former president, and George as vice president of Missouri, and Fedora as vice president and former president of Gateway of the Sisters in Crime. We all have run into the writers who come in to talk to us, and they've already fallen into that pit hole, and they go, "Oh my God, what do I do?" So go ahead with question, Kathleen.
Is this like when a Nigerian prince emails you scam? What kind of scams are we talking about?
Well, that's exactly what we're going
That's
for.
exactly what I was just about to touch on.
Go for it, Brad.
So when we talk about scams, probably mostly what we're going to talk about is publishing scams, which are scams to get your book published. There are also a ton of other scams, which I hope we can touch on too, such as editorial scams, which is where editors may not be exactly the most up and up. You can run into your blog tour scams, and then you can also run into your conference scams.
I'd just like to point out there are some things that are also gray zone scams. Namely, you are getting what you're paying for, but you are paying way too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But technically, you're getting what you're paying for.
That would be more your publishing scams. And if we're going to start there, then we should totally add the caveat that we're not maligning some of these companies, in fact, of calling them evil or saying that what they're doing is bad. It's just they're way overcharging you for things that you can do yourself. Or
someone else will do for you for a much cheaper rate and do it as just as good quality, if not better.
Better, most of the time.
And they prey on writers.
What they're preying on is ignorance.
Yes.
It's like a writer who doesn't know where to go for education, usually people who don't listen to this podcast.
Exactly, because we've
This
talked about
podcast
all of
talks a
this.
lot about truth, but it's a lot of people taking writers and people who love writers advantage of because they don't know how you get published, and this person says they're going to publish you.
Yep.
And then they say, oh good, that's what I wanted, and they don't do the further research to see what the proper publishing channel would be.
Knowing that we always fall off the rails of our conversations, because we never have a set agenda, we have a set topic, but I'm going to propose a slight agenda for us to go through, which is, let's talk about the scams, all the different scams out there, and then let's talk about what we can do to get out of those scams if you run into it.
Okay, good
So,
thing. Okay, well, we should define what we're talking about because we're kind of
Please.
stepping around it.
We are.
Yeah.
So let's go
These
for
are
it.
we're starting with the publishing scams. So these are publishing companies that are taking advantage of the writers that they publish. Your traditional publishing houses do not do this. And this is why it's become so easy because, the ones you see advertised on TV may not be the best ones to go with. Publishing is hard. It's a long journey and all that kind of stuff. But there are several publishers that will charge you $5,000+ up front and tell you that they will take care of the rest. Editing, cover, distribution, copies of the book, all that kind of fun stuff.
And that is the first red flag.
Yes.
You're supposed to pay them. Hey, in the real world of publishing that is legitimate, they're supposed to pay you.
Exactly.
There's a caveat to that.
Well,
Of course.
Yeah.
If you can, of course, get people to publish your book, and they'll be real upfront about it. That's all they're going to do. You send them the book, they will put it into a book format and send it back to you for X amount of money.
And
Perfectly legitimate. They don't promise that they're going to distribute it or advertise it at all. Just going to put your book in print and give it back to you for money.
That's what I do on Lulu.com.
Yes.
Lulu, I'm not signing any contracts with them. It's just a print and bind service. So I pay them money, the cost of printing and binding plus shipping, and they take that print and bind ship.
And we should
back
make
to
it
me.
very clear that in traditional publishing, you pay nothing up front and you make royalties off the books you sell. In vanity publishing is what it used to be known as. Now it's got many different terms. You pay ahead of time and generally will never make that money back. You get a dubious product.
To play up on that, I'm not sure when everyone here started their own publishing adventures. Mine started, my first one for the original version of From Parts Unknown started back in really about 2000, 2001, just when I was looking at my different options. And one of the things that I did that I absolutely regret doing, that I regretted doing for a period of time, was filling out the little form for more information for Ex Libris. Because as soon as I filled out that form, I got a very nice looking catalog that showed all their different methods of publishing. And they were going from $500 to several $1,000s, and it just looked absolutely ridiculous and just did not look like anything I wanted to be a part of. But that didn't stop the salespeople from calling me over and over again. That is a major thing to keep in mind, is that when they are calling you they are looking for a sale. They are not looking for an author.
No.
Right, and that's your second red flag right there. Your traditional publishers will be contacting your agents if you've got agents. Small presses will contact you, and generally speaking, but
No, always.
not always. But if they're contacting you, they're not constantly bombarding you with contact.
No,
They're not
you've initiated contact.
Right,
Yeah,
you've
that's-
initiated
That's the
contact
key
with
thing
them.
there, that they have standards that they want you to fulfill,
Yes.
and they will be introductory standards. You are to write them a letter of introduction to yourself, a query letter, maybe the first 10 pages. They'll have it on their website as to what you're supposed to do. And
Yeah.
then they will call you if they're interested, or they'll send you a nice rejection letter, or heaven
You
knows
won't
what
ever
they'll
hear
do.
anything.
Yeah, exactly. But when, I worked in publishing, when we accept you, we send you a lively letter. Generally, that then involves a phone conversation, then a topic of, we talk about your book. I mean, it's a whole back and forth. You then sign a contract, and, from that point, you're going to start earning royalties. But what you don't want to have is somebody who just says, and here's the difference. You can self-publish your book. Use these different services like Lulu to have them printed. Use editors online, that you meet. That's fine, but you're hiring these people. If some company is doing it all for you, one, a lot of these places have dubious editing. And there's a reason for that, because if they tell you your book is bad, you might not publish it with them. If they tell you they want you to change this and you don't want to change it, well, that's bad business. Their business is to print your book and get it back to you, and they figure the way you want it is the way that it's best. A publisher is a little bit different. If they see a story problem, if they see something that they think needs to change, a thread that you're running that doesn't make any sense or doesn't go anywhere, they might ask you to change that because they want to make the best book possible. And that's really the difference between the two services. Now, if you go with one of these, say, like TV publishers, you're going to get a book that is of decent quality, hopefully. Some of the layouts can be bad, but some of them can be really good. I've seen good books. But that book is going to come with a price tag on it that is almost unsellable. It might be as high as $30, I've seen, for a paperback, trade paperback.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
That's horrid, yes.
And that's
In
hard to
contrast,
justify.
Most of us here who sell trade paperbacks sell them between $10 and $15.
Right.
So $30 is twice what people expect to pay for the same
And
product.
you'd be hard to sell a hardback book
Exactly.
for that
Yeah.
much. Oh, you need to get up to like almost textbook level before people.
And
pay
they'll
more than
offer
that.
you hardbacks as part of the service. And some people think, oh, well, Patterson comes out in hardback first, then I should too.
Well, that's the old school of publishing is hardback then softback. That's
Well, yeah, but they were
old
also
school.
going with like national distribution
Exactly.
through like every outlet in the world, and you have none.
And also, it depends upon what their typical market is. If you have a publisher that caters to the library market, you're going to have hardbacks.
Exactly.
Right.
Because that's what libraries want.
Yep.
Exactly.
The others don't last well enough for them.
Yep.
The other half of what I went through for my publishing adventure from Parts Unknown was when I took the deal for with iUniverse, because they had a very attractive kind of deal. It was they would do the full setup, they would do get you all set up in paperback, and they would upgrade you to free hardcover for free. And the whole thing was only $199. It was this very special sale that they were going through. Great deal. And at the time, that was 2002. This was before Amazon, before Kindle, before any of that, really. And I jumped in with both feet. I got a decent... I will say, the quality of the book was very solid. I didn't get any crooked pages or anything like that. Pages weren't falling out. It was a very sturdy... good-looking book. The problem was that basically once it came out, and I had no idea what I was doing. Once my friends and family got their copies, it just pretty much died. What I was finally able to do to get out of it was back in 2010 when I reached out to them and I asked what sort of deals do you have right now? I want to see if I can kind of kickstart this up again. They said that if I buy 25 copies of my book at 50% off, then I would get upgraded to a free ebook. I had yet to be set up an ebook at that point. So this is 2010. I'm still not quite in tune with what I was doing. So I just said, why not? I had the money on me. Let's go ahead and go for it. I got my 25 copies almost the very next day, if not the day after. And a year passed before I got any semblance about anything about an ebook. Mm-hmm. And when I finally contacted them, I said, like, what's the deal? And they hadn't gotten around to it yet. Uh-huh. So I was able to get the rights back and completely sever all ties with iUniverse. Wow. And yeah, it was one of those things that I'm very happy to have washed my hands of that company completely.
Did you have to hire a lawyer to?
Thankfully, I did not. All I did was I sent them a very nice letter, just saying that I would like to get the rights back, and they had no problem giving me the rights back because it wasn't selling. So it was one of those things where they just like, all right, here, fine, take it back.
Well, it sounded like you'd gone over the standard 5-year right reversal. Reversal limit anyway. So.
Yeah.
What is this 5-year right reversion limit, please?
That depends on the contract.
Yeah. After X number of years, whatever's in the contract, the rights of your book, because you should own the rights, even though it's being published by another, company, you should still retain the rights. But after a set number of years, the print rights that you gave to the publisher revert back to you, and you can then do whatever you want with it. If you have character clauses where you're not allowed to use the same characters in other books, that would also fall off and go away at that point.
One of the advantages of self-publishing should be that you never lose that.
Yes.
Now, some of these vanity presses is the worst of both worlds, because not only do you not get the services of a real publisher, you lose your rights also.
Yeah, we should probably jump into that.
Yeah, let's
the
actually
rights
do that.
that you have. So what we're talking about is your contract. This is where you can avoid all of this.
Let me pause for just a second, because I want to go with the contract first. Just a recommendation. I don't care if you are signing up with a traditional publisher, and in those cases, I can guarantee you that the contract you probably have is boilerplate. Or if you are thinking you're signing up with a good publisher, and it turns out it's going to be one of these scams, take that piece of paper, or multiple pages of piece of papers.
Multiple.
Yeah. To an attorney.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Even if the attorney is not in the creative world, I should say,
No, just anyone who does
just take it to an attorney who understands contract law
and legalese.
And legalese.
Yeah. Legalese is its own language.
That's the language we speak, or
yes.
We being including the paralegals, which is what I fall into. We speak it, we read it, we understand it. Take it there, because I guarantee you, while you might pay a little bit up front for them to look at it with you and consult with you, it will be worth every penny you spent later.
If you don't understand contracts, you're not familiar with them, and this is not something you feel comfortable with, I highly recommend it. Somebody who can at least
property lawyer would be the best choice.
It is the best choice. They are few.
But the point is, you need somebody who can explain what the terms of this contract really are. Because in this contract is going to be a whole series of things where you can run into the second type of scam that we most commonly run into, which is the publisher scam, which is where certain publishers are more, are not as nice as other publishers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a good way of putting it.
Basically, they want to take more of your rights or control more of your book than should be allowed. Basically, there are less and less of these because we call them out all the time, but they do still exist. And we'll get into how you can avoid them in a minute. But the things you want to look for most off are how much are you going to get paid per book on your royalty, per your ebook, per your audiobook, all that kind of stuff.
Pause.
And at what terms are they going to pay you?
Right. Pause.
Like, when do they pay you?
You just said, and I'm hoping the audience just heard that very carefully. How much are they paying you?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Key parts.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
you should be getting paid for every bid. You should be getting a fair amount. When I say that, I do mean a fair amount. Because part of that is going to involve, like, on your print books, you're going to think, God, I'm getting nothing on my print books.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, you're not. The bookstore is getting, the bookstore gets a chunk, the distributor gets a chunk, the publisher gets a chunk, you get a chunk, and then advertising and other fees and expenses like that come into play. But, yeah.
Yeah, I would add one thing that perhaps a lot of people don't understand or know, that is the earnout issue. That is, when you get an advance on a book from a book publisher,
Good job.
Which is
it's
an upfront
only an
amount of money.
advance on return of royalties. So until your royalties would pay back that entire advance, you don't get anything additional.
Exactly.
But they can't take back the advance that they gave you.
Yes.
So you always get that. But it could be a long time before you see anything else.
Yes, this is true.
As the,
Good problem to have, though.
Yeah. The average sticker price that your typical author gets, am I correct when I've learned that it's 6 to 8% per sticker that the author would get?
It
their
depends on
royalty.
your deal, but yeah, that sounds about right.
Because as an illustrator, the illustrator and author make the same percentage in general when you're signing a big contract. So as author illustrator on my book, I would get a 12 to 16% because it's 8 to 10 doubled. And if I was going in there with an author, then we would both get 6 to 8% on that sticker, which is not a whole lot. When you're selling a book for $10 and you only get 8% of that,
Yes.
then it's not very much, and it will take a long time to earn out that advance that you got if you got an advance, because not every company gives you an advance.
No.
Sometimes the advance you get is the promise that they're going to give you 8% instead of 6%.
Well, and sometimes advances are just, here's $100.
Mm-hmm.
Because they want to be able to put you into Publishers Marketplace or Publishers Weekly.
Yeah.
And they have certain requirements before they'll announce books, and one of them is, did you get an advance?
Mm-hmm.
So there's, advances are weird and funny, but some of them can be huge. If the publisher knows the book's going to do well and they think it's going to do really well, you getting $50,000 to $1 million is not unheard of if you're Bill Clinton or, have a giant bio.
But unusual.
Super unusual unless you're got an agent. You'll have an agent at that point who's...
Sorry, that was Mark again.
I saw that coming.
I've been waiting for that for like the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, so have I.
And ebooks typically are going to give you better royalties.
Yes, you should be getting
Than,
the lion's share of an ebook.
Because there's so much less expense involved for everybody.
The most is 50. Yeah, the most is 50 to 70% is what you should be getting off your ebooks.
Kathleen?
I wanted to talk a little bit more, because we've kind of drifted into royalty territory, but about the scams that come through contracts.
Yeah. So I was going to continue. So the other ones would be your individual rights. So you have your audiobook rights, you have your ebook rights, you have your large print rights, you have your hardback rights, you have all these different rights that come into play. You should maintain all of them. The publisher that you get should really only take the North American print run for that. Those are the rights that they should get. They may want and then they'll also take your ebook rights, because most of them are going to do an ebook. Some are going to want your audiobook rights because they're going to produce an audiobook. Now, here's the thing. Yeah. There's a time limit that's written into every contract, and you need to know what that is. Because if they're getting these rights, then you need to know that they're going to act on these rights. The worst thing that can happen is they own the rights, and then they don't produce your book that way, and you can't do anything about it. It's a horrible place to be in because you don't have control at that moment. But if you own the rights and you retain the rights, then you have your publisher over here who's doing the print run and the ebooks, but you can come over here and ACX your audiobook.
Right.
ACX?
Go back to a previous episode where we talk all about that, because I don't want to go into it. But it's Amazon.
Make your own audiobook.
It's Amazon's
Audiobook Creation Exchange.
See, there we go. That's all I wanted. Thank you,
All right.
George.
Well, there's a whole episode, like, I don't know, 5 back or something.
Several
like
back. Exactly. Yeah.
But anyway, so each individual writes your foreign rights. So if you're going to be, generally you get the English-speaking world, and then you start moving into German and French, and the different languages around the world. You can get up to like 40 or 50 different languages. Each one of those is a separate right. Now, if you have an agent who's selling all these rights around the world, each right is going to give you a set fee, and usually it's several $1,000s. So this is where you make big money if you're an author.
After you've already sold a few $100,000
Exactly.
here.
Yeah.
Well,
You have to sell big here. No.
No.
Okay,
But if you sell big here, then you can go that. But here's the thing. You need to own those rights.
Right.
And that's a big way of getting scammed by publishers who say, we're taking all these rights over here, and really they just deserve the one.
Once again, attorney.
Yeah.
Attorney's your best friend.
Anything like the other ones that always come up are how long a term do they get to publish the book for? Because they only get a set period of time to publish the book, and then X number of years after that, the rights will revert to you, and you can do whatever you want with it. Next say on your next novel, some publishers will want first dibs on your next novel. That's actually a horrible thing to do because they have no guarantees of publishing it, and then you have nothing you can do with it. So you're going to want to maintain those rights. And if you're with a reputable publisher, they're not going to try and go after these. These are red flags that would make you question whether or not you want to sign that contract.
What about if they want to say, for instance, rights, limited term rights, but let's say, you can't publish with any other publisher without first refusal with this character, or
see
this
that.
world.
Well,
Character rights.
character rights is their whole thing, and they're probably going to snatch those up for the length of time of which they're publishing.
Okay.
But your next book, beyond anything, and the reason I say that and not just the next thing you do that's completely different, is because usually it's not phrased that way. But yeah, you don't want them to have first refusal rights. That can be a bad thing because it can lock you in where you now can't publish. IP rights, all of that. That's you want to have some of that in there. They'll probably have that you can't go publishing a Harry Potter novel with Tor instead of Scholastic. That's all going to be standard. But your next character or anything like that, you don't want to have any of those kind of limitations on you. Things about when you get paid, who pays the taxes, and when's the reporting done. All those kinds of things are good ones to keep an eye out for. Advertising, if they're going to dedicate any money to you. When you get paid, when the books are due, the timelines of things. Like if you want a set period until publishing. You want to know that within 18 months your book's going to be published, because the problem can be 3 years later they still haven't published your book and they're sitting on it and there's nothing you can do about it. So these are all little things in the contract. Get a contract lawyer, do a lot of Googling into what a literary contract should look like. You'll be fine.
And in all fairness, you don't necessarily get every single thing you
No,
want.
you're not.
It's a negotiation.
No. If it looks good, sign it.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time talking about the publisher side. Now, you talked about there's other things like editorial scams.
And blog tours and conferences.
And blog tour scams
Yeah.
and conference scams.
So the editing one, to jump into that real quick, is bad editors, really, basically. Editors who will claim that they are line editors when really they're just copy editors. And what I mean there is they just tell you what's wrong with the book. This scene doesn't work there. They don't actually go through and hit every comma and every misspelling or something like that. Know the different types. That'll help avoid that. Only go with editors who know the different types.
Yes.
And the reason why I bring that up, there's a huge price difference between somebody who's going to read through and tell you, oh, I thought chapter 2 was a little light or a little bad.
Rather than somebody just a little bad.
Yeah. Other than that, other than the person who's going to charge you per page to mark the heck out of it so that you have a beautiful finished copy when you're done.
Exactly.
And then to jump into the others.
Actually, before you do.
Okay.
going back to the publishing scam, the publishers scams where they promise you that they are going to edit it. For example, vanity presses and so forth. Their editors will not tell you what's wrong. Why? It's your money that they want. They don't want to scare you away or make you angry and have you walk away. So they're saying, oh, this is something equivalent to the greatest book since sliced bread was created. You know you got a problem. Go ahead.
To jump into the next couple, the conference scam is kind of the easier one to describe. This has been a rash lately. I did not know about this happening too many years ago, but there have been like 4 in the last year or 2. So there will be conferences. So they will charge people to have tables at the conferences. They'll charge authors to attend it. There's one person who's in charge of it. They collect all the money from all these people, and then a couple of weeks before the conference, we've canceled it, no refunds, sorry, and now this person's just earned 20 plus grand or so
of your money
and everyone else's money, and then they skip town and head off. It's become an odd scam that is most funny. It was, I think, 2 years ago. The woman who's now actually done this several times, she claimed that there had been a terrorist attack or a terrorist threat, terrorist bombing threat on the hotel where the conference was going to be held, and that's why she had to cancel it. And then she would go on to do it again, do the exact same scam in a different town later that year, which is ballsy if you ask me.
Well, scammers are ballsy.
All right, so we've discussed a bit about how to avoid certain publishing scams. How do you avoid a conference scam like this?
Check your conferences. So,
where? How?
The best way to do it is to check their website. It should look professional. It should have a lot of detailed information, and it should tell you who's going to be there, and a bunch about it. Most of these
have a track record. There should have been other conferences years
Unless
earlier.
it's the first conference.
Yeah, unless it's the first conference, which then they should be telling you it's the first conference.
Yeah. Right.
We say all over the place, this is the first gateway to publishing con.
Exactly.
If it's held by a reputable organization.
Exactly.
This is, Gateway Con's going to be done by St. Louis Writers Guild. Missouri Writers Guild is a well-known...
And it has, both of those have long-term histories. It goes back, 90 years or more?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the point there is that, know who's putting on the conference. If it's just one person, I can tell you that's a problem. Because I have been that one person, and no way, I couldn't do it. So it's a physical impossibility for one person to put on one of these things. But anyway, where are they listed? Are they listed in Writer's Digest? You can get listed in Writer's Digest. Are they listed on Shaw Guides? Shawguides.com or shawguides.net, I think it is actually.
.net, I think, but just Google
one of the
Shaw
two,
Guides.
Yeah. That has
Guides.
every conference in the world practically.
Except for Gateway Con, we got to get
it's coming. But yeah, so soon, the point
it's
is
the first year of the conference, and they might be a bit slow getting things in.
Right.
And then you go from there. Who they're inviting, what agents are there. You should know all this information long before, you send in your money and you do all this kind of stuff.
And there's good word of mouth, too.
Yes,
if you're
who's
in
been
a
there?
writer's organization, you can talk to people who've probably been to anyone. Certainly, I've been to Malice Domestic. Be happy to talk about that,
Exactly.
etc.
And also, too, if your writer's organization goes, what?
Yeah.
Who? That's a good sign. That's a problem. But
also, if they tell you things like, oh yeah, J.K. Rowling is still going to be here, probably not a good idea.
probably not. Before I turn it over to Kathleen, there's one place we have not mentioned yet to go look at. And I'm not going to talk about Predators editors yet. That's actually, we're going to talk about that later. But believe it or not, a very easy place to go look at. Better Business Bureau. Especially on conferences and the on the publishers. If they do not have a good Better Business Bureau rating, they will show you why, and that's a good warning sign. I met with somebody who had was almost caught. in one of those. Like, have you gone out here? Let's take a look at what they got. Oh, crap. So
I think Google does amazing work too.
Google does.
Google,
But Google can have
problems with
false information in it. I hate to say that.
No, I'm not saying it can. I'm just saying Google, who has problems with the what. And,
exactly.
Somebody's written a bitchy blog about it. I guarantee you, if there's a problem, somebody's ranted on the blog.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and sorry, I was going to jump to blog tours if you didn't have anything more about conferences.
No, I just wanted to know if this woman had actually set up hotel space.
That's another question.
I'm really curious about
No,
that.
actually, I don't know about the first one, but the second one that she pulled later that same year, she did not actually set up anything with the hotel yet.
And that's something else too. At least,
and then she'd go to Canada and do it another time.
I'll say from our experience with putting GatewayCon together, when we talked to the hotel where we're going to have it at, which is Renaissance Hotel here in St. Louis by the airport. Sorry, I had to do a quick plug.
It's a great hotel.
It really is. We signed a contract. So if there is a conference that you're not really certain of, is it really happening? Is it sounding like it's too good to be true? And it's going to be happening at the XYZ hotel, call XYZ.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. See if they have any information on it. If they don't know anything about it, big red flag.
Make sure you're talking to the right person.
Right.
But,
Make sure you're talking to the right person, but yes.
Groups and events coordinators.
Exactly.
Those are the ones you want to speak with.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a whole thing. It was kind of a weird thing that's popped up in the last few years.
Utterly bizarre.
Yes, and now there are actually weird groups like the societies of like people who do all the table vending and stuff like that. They've all banded together to like list which conferences are good and bad and such.
Was this the woman that faked her own death or declared her mother dead or something?
No, yeah, she did fake her own death to try and get out of it.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
This is
I'm
a
sorry.
whole thing. This is a wonderful series of articles that you can read about this lady who pulled all these conference scams.
All right, so
I
just
don't know her
because
name
I
and I
don't
don't
want us to
remember it.
go into this in the episode, but I want to be able to look this up, and I think other people will know that she faked her own death.
Yeah.
Any keywords we can use when we're searching?
God, I wish I could remember.
It was on one of the it was on one of the warning sites. I don't know if it was Predators or Editors or something else.
Writers Beware. They
Writers
followed
Beware,
it
that was
forever. So I know it's logged in there somewhere. But no, I don't remember her name. I wish I could. I would just conference scams.
It's an interesting
They
case
come up
study
there.
of a psychopath because she's a mostly non-violent psychopath.
I don't think she hurt anybody.
There was something about a car.
But yeah, and it's a whole series of articles because they started writing it from the first one, and then they just kept writing and adding and adding and adding, and it just gets crazier and crazier because it just kept getting weirder and weirder. And the fact that she just kept pulling it. But yeah, so that's definitely a way you can scam all that.
And Mark just wants to be a part of this episode.
Yeah.
Mark is
I'm afraid Mark's going to be taken care of here.
Poor Mark.
Bye, Mark.
So-
Denied.
So anyway, what's some of the other scams? We've talked about conference scams.
Book tours was the next one I was going to jump to. So, according to Chuck Sambucino of Writer's Digest, and I quote him from the various writing workshops that I've been to of his, you shouldn't pay for a blog tour. And the reason being is that there are tons of blogs out there that run book reviews, and you should just contact them all and get your book on them, various things like that.
Hold on, pause.
Yeah.
What is a blog tour, Brad?
Oh, okay. A blog tour is when your book comes out or when you're getting ready to gear up for it. It can be a cover reveal. It can be a whole bunch of different things. You schedule a whole series of blogs about your book to come out within a set period, usually 2 weeks.
It's a very good way to do marketing.
It is a very good way to do marketing for your book.
And the idea is to get on other people's blogs. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. No. You're getting on, say, however many blogs you contact. You contact, 50 blogs and they all want to do this. Well, there are services out there, blog touring services, which you do pay for, where you will pay X amount of money, it's usually a couple $100, and you will be featured on 10, 20, 30 different blogs over the course of the next 2 weeks, the 2 weeks that's scheduled. those run the gambit of really credible, and industry bigwigs use them. All the big 5 publishers, all the big authors and stuff use them. There's that side of it. There are also blog tours that are dubious. You'll pay a lot of money. Maybe you get a couple of blog tours, but half of them don't work. All that kind of stuff. And you end up getting very little for your dollar. The only way that I can say it is check the blog tours, see what the blogs are regularly posting, see if anyone else is complaining about them. But it's a really common way of saying, we're going to put you on 50 blogs, and then you come out on 5. And they're like, oh, well, most of the people didn't want to write blogs that week. Sorry. And there's nothing you can do.
Just to interject really quickly, the person in question,
good,
her name is Melanie Mills, long known to be a scam literary agent. She has promoted a non-existent writers' conference in South Carolina, which she then canceled without sending anyone that promised refunds on memberships they bought, faked her own death, masquerading as her own assistant and possibly her own daughter as well, shut down her operation in South Carolina and decamped to Canada, while operating under the name Elizabeth von Hullerseem.
That sounds familiar, yes.
Fraudulently promoted and sold memberships in a non-existent literary conference in Banff, trading on the reputation of the prestigious Banff Calgary Wordfest.
Yes.
And vanished from Banff with tens of thousands of dollars in convention fees. The latest thing that I see here is that she has been tracked down and arrested by Canadian Mounties.
Yay!
Love our brothers to the north.
Yeah.
I'm so delighted that Mounties got her.
There's a whole series of articles you can read. I prefer the ones that are off Writers Beware, just because it's really hilarious. But yes.
I was looking for an update and I couldn't find one.
Yep.
Oh, that's so
like
good.
the Mounties, we always get
Thank
on that.
you.
Yes.
Yes, but that was from a while ago. It's like, what's happening now?
Yep.
That screams for a movie, and I just hope because she's written it, the movie about herself.
I can
And
believe
she's
I
that.
doubt
peddling
it's
it.
honest.
No, it's a whole part of it. It's awesome. Because that was what she did when she got in jail, was she was starting to push her movie. But I would love to see this movie, just not written by her.
Okay, so anyway, I don't know how to follow that one.
We were talking about
Scams.
blog tours.
Blog tours,
Yes. And you'll find a lot of those with the advertising sites. I don't believe anyone who's going to sell me 10,000 Twitter followers.
No.
Yeah.
That's a good place to start on avoiding scams. Anyone who tells you they're going to get you more followers and stuff like that, probably not a good idea. I did, however, just run a Facebook ad for Iron Lotus when it came out. And that was actually, I probably got what I paid for.
Yeah.
Winding
Winding Trails Media runs usually a weekly Facebook ad, and we get what we pay for as well. And it's not a scam setup. We do it through a company, but
No, actually, it had quite an interesting response.
yeah. We've got about a little bit more than 15 minutes left in the original time frame of the broadcast. So now I want to switch gears. If somebody ends up in one of these scams, somebody ends up in the scam, or you, God forbid, fall into the pit. How do you recognize them? And we've talked a lot about that, so I don't want to detail. But also, how do you get out of them? Brad, you've already got your hand up.
Yeah. So, starting off with the vanity presses, the ones where you handed over $5,000, they have given you a book and a tote bag with your book cover on it, and probably a few other cool little knickknacks to hand out to you.
Good luck getting royalties back from them.
Well, here's the thing. Yes, you overpaid for your book, and whatever, but you're not totally screwed at that point. There is the possibility, if you market like crazy, if you knock on every door and attend every event, that you can sell enough books to make back most of your money. And the reason I say that,
in other words.
yes, and the reason I say that is because I have seen it done. Only once, and she has a book that is very much tailored to a certain market. She's at everything throughout the year. and it took her a couple of years to make her money, but she made it. However, that is rare. Usually you're going to end up on the other side where you never make back the money of that book. So that's one of the ways to avoid it, is just to accept it and push through and
Not really avoiding
mark it
it.
like mad. Yeah.
Escape
Make friends
the
with the
time.
lions in the pit.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I will say that there is something that somebody I know got into the vanity thing, and not only do they overcharge her to begin with, they're not sending her royalty checks like they should be.
Right.
So.
And that person, actually, let's use that person. I'm not going to mention names at all. Let's use that person. That person, last I heard, have not followed up on this at all. She went to the local arts lawyers, basically. And has anything happened with that?
She has the rights back.
Okay, so they were able to get her rights back on that.
I was going to ask, is there anything you can do legally to get out of these things?
Well, that's where the attorneys come
well,
into
here's
play.
the thing. This is why you want to know what your contract is, because if they don't meet the requirements of the contract, then you can start breaking certain things of the contract. Other than that, though, some things are airtight. You can't, adjust. You
So-
sign that contract.
This goes back about 15 minutes ago or so. When you get the initial contract, take it to an attorney
Yes.
who understands contract law, which is the vast majority of them. Because this is where the dollars that you spent on that attorney come into play. A lot of attorneys spend time once the contract's already been signed going, okay, I've got this mess, please get me out of it. And they can't.
Yes.
An attorney will at least identify for you up front the problems, like what Brad was just saying, the airtight ones.
Mm-hmm.
You sign this contract, you're in, and your door's closed. Good luck.
But in the case we were talking about, they weren't sending her royalty
Yes.
checks. They
So
were
they were in
breaking the
breach of
contract.
their-
They're in breach of
Right there.
contract. Now, other ways you can get in breach of contract is if they're not publishing your book on time, if they were supposed to do things and have not done those things. So, say they were supposed to publish your audiobook. It says in the contract they were going to do this in X amount of time. They don't do that. You can then go and fight them for that clause to get the rights back for the audiobook to then publish the audiobook yourself.
Uh-huh.
But you can't adjust the terms of the ebook or the print book or whatever. Those are locked in.
So,
And they've met their standards there.
so what kind of evidence do you need to gather in order to?
Well, to be clear, so if you have an 18-month clause on your audiobook, they were within X amount of time we're going to produce your audiobook. Past X that time, past 19 months later, you can then go and have a lawyer contact them and say, you negotiate those rights.
And I will say that a lot of these companies will just let you go because it's not worth it for them to pay their lawyers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The
Now,
minute you
here-
start paying lawyers, there's a whole thing of let's avoid all of this and start signing, because nobody here has any money to pay lawyers.
Yeah.
Right.
And by that, I mean the publishing side as well.
Oh no, I was going to say, is that why the X-Men and the term mutant is still not allowed in the Marvel Cinematic
Yes,
Universe?
yes.
Because rights keep getting
This is why we get a Spider-Man movie every couple of years.
Right.
Because every studio, when they after the release of a film, they have a 5-year period to get another movie into production, or else the rights revert back to the original holder.
Exactly.
So when Spider-Man, after Spider-Man 3 was coming out, they were working on a Spider-Man 4 with Sam Raimi aboard, but then deals fell apart and everything, and they had to basically just kind of take what they had and retool it into a brand new origin story reboot in order to get that out there to make that 5-year window.
Because they
Right.
really don't want to lose Spider-Man.
It's
Right.
That's also the Fantastic Four movie that
Yep,
came out recently. They took a lot of shortcuts and made a whole lot of last-minute decisions because they were trying to hold on to those Fantastic Four rights.
Right.
So basically, your publisher has that kind of window that you will be able to find in your contract.
Yes.
Yes.
And if they have not done the work to put your work out there, if they have not done the publishing work that they agreed to,
Exactly.
you can
Breach of
then
contract.
try and get your...
But they have to be in breach of contract before you can adjust the contract.
All right.
Now, here's the fun part. Going back to your question, what evidence do you need? There used to be a TV show that it was titled the exact answer that you need, the paper chase.
Mm-hmm.
You need to keep a hold of all your communication and it's evidence of what's been going on.
And this is where email becomes a wonderful thing, because email becomes this wonderful written record of all your conversations.
Exactly. You need to
Put it
show
in its
that.
own little folder. Never
Yes.
erase it.
Yes, exactly. You don't want to erase it for at least 10 years. That's just a good rule of thumb to use.
I've been waiting for you to do your lawyer's spiel.
I know. Okay, let me pause for a
He's
second.
already recorded it like a couple weeks ago. Just clip that. Put it
Yeah,
right
just
here.
clip it there. But here you go.
Insert explanation.
I am a paralegal, not an attorney. I am not allowed to give legal advice. Anything I say is of my own personal opinion. If you need legal advice, please seek an attorney who has passed the bar in your state and in the territory, in the category in which is best fits your needs.
I'm going to be able to recite that if you keep
We
doing this.
so are.
I know.
And just reverse that to 49 minutes ago.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But basically, what you want to do is you want to maintain the papers. Make sure you got a copy of your contract. Keep that copy. Go ahead.
What I hear a lot of put it in writing, put it in writing. What happens if you have verbal agreements with?
To borrow the old adage, the verbal agreement is worth the paper it's written on.
Yes.
Okay, so
It's not so
That's
much that
never
it isn't
good.
valid, it's that no one believes it unless it's written
Yeah.
down.
Right.
So-
It really
And you
is.
have nothing to go back to.
So what do you then do if you have a verbal agreement?
Well,
do you
Send an
write-
email.
Hope you
To-
have
to-
good witnesses.
Yeah.
To
That's
go with
the only
it.
way.
To go with it. Verbal agreements tend, and okay, what I'm about to say, once again, talk to your attorneys, and this varies by jurisdiction, okay? Verbal agreements can be brought to court in small claims and be held there as long as you got some evidence of it. But when you're talking about bigger money, you really do need to have a paper contract. Small claims is only up to about $3,000 to $5,000.
So we live in an electronic world,
Uh-huh.
and electronic signatures are a thing.
Yes.
Getting a signature on something is very important because it's quote unquote proof that a guy saw it.
Yes.
And when you both have signed a thing, it's proof you both have seen it, and it's saying you both agree to it, and it's permanent. Nowadays, you do a lot of negotiation over the internet. There are the Adobe Acrobat program lets you do a digital signature, but often when I'm working with clients, our digital signature is these are our terms in our email exchanges, and these are small things again. Like I haven't had any $10,000 clients that I've made this sort of an arrangement with, but I state, all right, in lieu of signing a contract, is this email chain, does this qualify that you are agreeing to the terms we've set and that we both agree to fulfill what we promise? And then I'm like, please write back and say that you do. And then they write back and say, yes, I do. And since their email and their name and all of their info is on that, that can sort of justify as a cheap, crappy version of the signed contract.
Yes.
Exactly.
I do send them a paper, like a PDF of my contract.
Yes.
And then instead of them printing it out and scanning it and signing it, especially if it's like a logo or...
I have signed it, digitally signed it, and done the email agreement.
Mhm.
Right.
Done all three with Jennifer.
Yes, same here.
Real quick, because Kathleen brought up movies. So we started talking about movies for a second. We should talk about the Hollywood scam. The Hollywood scam is where, say, a TV channel that will remain nameless suddenly gets interest in your book. Or a production company that is not Bad Robot suddenly gets involved and thinks your book is awesome. Two wonderful things can happen at this point. A, they're going to pick it up, and B, they're going to turn it into a movie. Here are the problems with that. One, they can buy the rights to it and then sit on it so that no one else makes your book into a movie. That is a horrible graveyard for your book to be in. But
All the
a
same,
production,
they're paying you for that privilege.
they are, and that can be a wonderful part of that.
That's not so bad.
If you're cool with it not becoming a movie, then that's awesome, and I am in that boat, because if somebody was like, we want Iron Chronicles and we're going to sit on it forever, I'd be like, cool, just pay me money. Anyway, the other part of that, though, is you want the production window. You want to know that within 5 years of signing this agreement, they have to put something in production or you get the rights back, which is exactly what we're talking about. The second part of that is the quality of the movie that is made. You are going to want, if you're serious about wanting your book turned into a movie, then you're going to want to retain things like your ability to make script changes, your authorization for script changes, your authorization for who can act in it, who can produce it, how much the budget's going to be for it. All of those wonderful things, none of which you're going to get.
That's exactly what I was
Right.
I can tell you this right now. You can try and fight for them, but if you're a lonely little fish, there's no way in the world you're going to get it. You're going to need an agent to fight for any of that, and even the agent's going to have a hard time getting that.
Just a quick add-on to that. With one of the things that happens, we were talking before about the whole issue between Spider-Man 3 over to the Amazing Spider-Man reboot. What sometimes happens is not that much of a happy ending in that sense, because a lot of times what companies will do in order to hold on to those, to continue holding on to those rights, they will do what Dimension Films did with the Hellraiser series, and they will create what is called an ash can. An ash can is a very, very low budget movie that is not intended to go anywhere. And what they will do is they will basically use that to extend their rights for another period of time.
Hollywood's very good at this.
Oh yeah,
you have no
like
chance.
one of the most famous story was the German producer Bernd Eichinger, who had the rights to the Fantastic Four from the late '80s, and was running out of time, and basically had to reach out to, of all people, Roger Corman to have a movie put together that would cost roughly about $1 million, so that he could hold on to those rights. But at the same time, there was a whole lot of back and forth that went into that eventually wound up resulting in that movie being shelved. Highly recommend you watch the documentary Doomed, which you can get on Amazon Instant Video. Tells the whole story in a much better way than I possibly could.
And watch the movie, because it's the best Fantastic Four movie ever made.
Yes.
Like, legitimately. It's low budget as any B movie would be.
But it embraces it.
And everyone in there is having such a good time.
Yeah.
Even if they don't know how to mic Dr. Doom properly.
Right.
Okay. Any final suggestions? And I'm going to mention something at the end about if you want to learn more about scams and how they work. I'm going to talk about some resources out there, but go ahead.
Quick shout out for Writers Beware. I've mentioned it a couple of times. It's writersbeware.com. It's Victoria Strauss and another author who's totally blanking. But anyway, they're both huge sci-fi authors. They run the site. It is an amazing site. They talk all about the industry, and they have kind of a no holds barred. We don't pull any punches when we talk about people who are trying to scam over writers.
Another thing too, Pred-Ed, which is right now, it's Predators and Editors. It is right now, from what I understand, I haven't checked it myself, but I was told by a friend out there that it is currently back under construction. They're trying to update it and do some things to it, but
They only waited since the conception of the internet to update
Yeah,
that website.
exactly.
but the information on there is still updated and accurate. It's a thing you can rely on. Any other suggestions? I mentioned Better Business Bureau people, and I meant that seriously. Is there any other?
Query Tracker's a good one.
Okay.
Writer's Digest will help you identify reputable ones. You can always check AAR for agents.
What's AAR for? What's it stand for?
Brad's biting his lip going, I don't remember.
I don't remember exactly.
It's like
It stands for
author agents and
Google it.
representatives or something, or
It might be. I'm not certain.
The trouble with a lot of these is
Google what AAR means, and that'll tell you.
Yeah.
it's difficult to tell the difference between brand new and scammers sometimes.
It really is. One of the things I'm going to say then, if anyone doesn't have any other sites to recommend, okay, and that is rely on your own instincts and develop those instincts for the con. If they feel like they're a big, sorry, I'm picking on an industry, but a big used car salesman to you or a politician, you might want to avoid it.
It looks too good to be true. It all is.
Exactly.
Well, the full
there's-
$5,000 for my book does not look too good to be true.
Right. 2 books, which I'm going to highly recommend that you read if you really want to develop your instinct for the con. Which means you're going to dig into the psychology and the philosophy of how con men work. One is an old book, one's a new book. I'm going to give you the new book first. And this con works, this is for all cons as well as, how should I say it, people who want to seduce you. It is called The Art of Seduction. It is by author Robert Greene. Robert Greene has been considered the modern day Machiavelli. Another book.
I thought it was Dick Cheney.
Nice try. The other book, and this is an old one. If you remember the movie The Sting, this was one of the main resource books for it, and has been so for other type con artist stories, and that is The Big Con, The Story of Confidence Men, written by David W. Maurer, Maurer.
Both good books.
Yes.
There are movies you can check out for this too.
Yes.
Hollywood loves to kind of talk about this in movies. But anyway, what I was actually going to throw out is for any young people out there, or anyone who knows young people who want to write. They are so often the most oftenly to get conned.
Yes, they are.
And the reason is they don't know about the industry, and they don't know the tools, and they don't know where to go in order to learn.
They see the dream.
And parents are often, stupid.
And they don't have the patience either.
Exactly. So if you know somebody who's a young person who wants to write, or if you are a young person who wants to write, publishers will take your work. There is no age limit to publishing. It's just about quality levels. So if you're in high school and you write exactly like some New York Times bestselling author, there is a publisher who is more than willing to publish you and will work out the guardianships and the rights and all that kind of stuff with your parents. So, do know this. Don't just fall for the scam and get your parents to shell out a bunch of money and then you have a book that you can't really do anything with. Just know that the publishing industry has no age limits.
And you guys know that I love the author Octavia Butler.
Yes.
And when she was young, a teenager, she got scammed publishing something. And her mom shelled out $50 to help her work get published. And at the time, in the, I think, 60s, that was
Sounds right.
considerable amount for, a middle-class family to have to shell out in the first place. But nowadays, we have the internet. It is a magical, magical place where you can research and you can look up, information about who's holding a convention, for example, or what other writers or authors have had, what experiences they've had with a certain editor, or whether this group really exists, or the number for the hotel that this con is supposedly at. So there are so many resources now that you have just on your phone or your computer. If you're listening to this, you're probably using one now. So do a little bit of research. Just double check things. It's not going to hurt you. It's going to teach you a lot, and it'll help you avoid some of the pitfalls that we can fall into when we're eager to get our work out there.
Ben?
Speaking of the internet, you can go to aaronline.org and see the Association of Authors Representatives.
That's it.
Thank you. Yeah.
You've been so good with the Google today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Google food. Living
Joe-
proof.
Yes.
What we
Yes.
were talking about. Do a little research, find out everything you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, everybody, have a great week writing, and tune in next week for yet another interesting story in the publishing industry.
Did you know that Right Pack Radio has an international audience? How would you like to reach that audience in regards to your books, your book services, your author services, or more? Go to www.windingtrailsmedia.com and look under advertising for more information. If you don't have a script, that's not a problem. We will be happy to work with you. Once again, go to www.windingtrailsmedia.com for more information.
Gateway Con? What is Gateway Con? The Gateway to Publishing Conference and Convention, brought to you by St. Louis Writers Guild, is a new, unique experience for writers looking for their work to be either traditionally published, independently published, self-published, or to further their writing career. Coming in June 2017, Gateway Con will provide opportunities for writers to pitch their work to agents, hone their craft regardless if it is genre fiction or nonfiction, and obtain expert critiques. Get get to meet vendors and experts who can help your writing get attention. And all writers get their work in front of their audience. Writers will get to network with agents, publishers, and others in your genre. Gateway to Publishing Conference and Convention will be in St. Louis, June 16th through the 18th, 2017. For more information, visit www.stlwritersguild.org or look for GatewayCon on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. GatewayCon, opening the gateway for writers to reach their readers.
The new theme songs for Right Pack Radio were written and performed by Meredith Tate. All copyrights remain with her.